I'll see, you know, what I can do, what I can work, you know, how I move, you know, how I move when I move. Okay, so jumping straight in, I'm using my e.l.f. Hydrating Concealer to even out the skin tone that is on my lids to prep it for the shadows that I'm going to be using. Any shade names that I use in this video will be on the video. It'll be stamped on the screen, and it'll also be listed below, as well as any products that I forget to mention. They all will be listed in the description box below, so make sure you check that out if you want to know what I'm using. This is the Genuine Coat Sponge. After I use the brush to blend that out, I'm going in further with that sponge. This is the Maybelline Fit Me loose setting powder, and I'm using that to set my lids. I always do this because I have hooded lids, so this stops me from creasing. I'm going in with the at Forrest Sight palette. This is by RawBeautyKristy. I am in love with this palette. I love Kristy. I was so happy when she launched this, so I'm so happy that I got to get it before they were all sold out. Taking that first shade and putting it on the outer third of my lid. I was kind of surprised because it had more pigment than I thought it did. I thought it was going to be a softer tone, but I'm using that first shade to put it on the outer third, the outer third of my lid, and then blending that towards the inner corner of my lid. And I'm going to do the same for both sides. I'm going to try my best to explain what I'm doing, but I'm not a teaching type of person when it comes to doing makeup. I kind of just stumble along and find my way on the way there. I don't see a vision. Well, sometimes I do see a vision when I'm trying to do an eye look, but most of the time I'm just placing shadows, blending, and seeing what looks best. I can't remember if I left the mistake I made in this video, but I even made a mistake. I put a shade on that I thought would work and it didn't, so I just went over it with a different color. So if I forget to mention anything or give you any steps, this is one of those type of things where you're really just going to have to watch what I'm doing in order to see how to achieve the look. I will try to get better with that in the future on explaining things, but I will explain things as I feel they are necessary, but for the most part, just kind of watch what I'm doing to see how you get to the look that I achieved. So I chose to go with this concealer. I believe it's Maybelline, the Instant Rewind Concealer, because it's a little bit more, it's not as wet, and I'm using that to cut my crease. I did the trick where you put a little bit at the bottom of on your lash line, and then you look up, and that's going to let me know how far that is going to transfer. So, and I picked this concealer in particular because it still kind of has a little stick to it, like a little tack to it almost, and it's not really watery. It dries down kind of matte, but it's not, it dries down matte, but it still has a little stick to it. So that's why I chose to use that concealer for my lid, because it would be good for sticking the shadows on top. So yeah, right there, that's a shade. I didn't list it on the screen because I didn't like the way that it came out. It looked differently in my head. So I go over that in a little bit with a different shade to fix that mistake. Right, so I go in with West Coast to, plus I can never not go with some type of shimmer or glitter, so that's why I chose this color. And I love to put golds and warm shades on, so that's how I decided to go in with West Coast. I didn't add any extra glitter, although in the future I do think I might add a little extra glitter. It was going on fine dry, but I felt like it went on better with the brush was wet, so I just took that e.l.f. hydrating setting spray to wet my brush a little bit, and it went on a little bit better. Again, taking that same fluffy brush, I think it was a smaller one, to make sure those shades are blended. Going in with that shade Evergreen now, which is a pretty, it's like a green that shifts to a gold. Is very pretty, and I'm just blending that in between those two shades to give it a different color. And I went in with Emerald City. It's a green, like a dark green shade. Even though I was sticking more on the brown and warmer tones, I did want it a little bit deeper, and I wanted something that was going to go good with that green shimmery shade, and this shade went perfect with it. So that's why I chose that shade over the darker blue shade or the black. I didn't want to go all the way black, and the black has some shimmer in it, so that's why I chose to go in with this shade Evergreen. It gave me exactly what I wanted. Now moving into my face, this is my favorite primer of all the primers I've ever used. It's the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer, and I pretty much just use that in my T-zone area because that's where my pores are the largest, and any excess that I have on the rest of my hands, I spread out through the rest of my face, but mainly concentrating that in the center of my face. This is my favorite foundation to date. It is the NARS Natural Radiant Foundation because I am able to sheer it out quite a bit and still make it look natural. I used to use, I can't think of the setting spray. It's the Cover FX Illuminating Setting Spray. I think that's what it's called. To set my foundation in while I'm blending it. First of all, every time I blend my foundation out, I do use some type of mist or setting spray or hydrating mist to blend out my foundation, just because I do have drier skin and my skin has a little bit of texture, so I don't want to go too matte, because matte, I just don't like that on my skin all the time. So I always go in with some type of mist, and today I just used the RawBeautyKristy one because I was out of my Cover FX setting spray, and it's pretty expensive. So, well, it's not cheap. It's not expensive. It's not cheap. So, and I was out of that one. And the only other setting spray I have is a e.l.f. one, the Illuminating setting spray that I have. For some reason, I just didn't want to go in with that one. But there's another one that I have that's kind of like a dupe of the All Nighter setting spray. I didn't want to use that one because it wasn't going to give me what I was looking to do. I just wanted to keep it natural. So that's why I use the RawBeautyKristy, because it's just like a facial mist. When I place my concealer, I always blend out my forehead area first, because I want to really sheer that out. I don't wait until my concealer dries down because I like to keep everything pretty natural. My under eyes is the last thing that I blend out. And I think I go in with a little bit more just to make sure that I cancel out any darkness or discoloration underneath my lids or underneath my eyes. Using any excess to highlight my chin area. I forgot to show it on camera, but under my eyes and everywhere that I placed the concealer, I used the Mercier Translucent setting powder, and for the rest of my face I use the Maybelline Fit Me one. I never bake. Like I said, I have drier skin and I want things to look more natural for me, so I don't ever bake my concealer. I just lightly dust some setting powder so that things won't move. Going in with that shade Puffball on my lower lash line just to give it some color there and some dimension. I went off camera to do my lashes. I didn't do a eyeliner on the top line. I just applied my lashes, and then I used the e.l.f. mascara for my bottom waterline. This is my favorite, this matte bronzing powder palette from Essence. I used to swear by one from e.l.f. and it's Perpetually Tan. I still like that one, but I just love this palette right here because I get all the different shades and I'm able to use the different shades for different parts of my face. So like I use the second shade for my bronzer, I use the third shade for contour, I use the lightest shade to contour the sides of my nose, and then on those days where I'm just going for a natural look, I use the deepest shade in the palette just washed across my eyes. It's the best palette. Like, I really do suggest you get it. Always contour my jawline. And this is my favorite highlighter. That's the Dose of Colors one in partnership with iluvsarahii. I have had it for a minute. I'm surprised I haven't hit pan. Well, no, I haven't hit pan because I don't do my makeup as often as my friends think I do. That's another one of those Sonia Kashuk brushes, the largest blending brush. I love that brush to do my nose highlight because it's so fluffy and it just gets the job done perfectly. I used to use my finger, but sometimes that leaves my highlight a little harsh. And this is a setting spray that I use from e.l.f. Again, I will link it all below. I do set my face before I go in my lip products, and I'm using my tried and true, my go-to lip combo for this look, which is a brown lip liner from NYX. It's in the shade Cappuccino. I'm going to slightly outline my lips, mainly just on the outer edges, and go in with gloss. Sometimes I will use a nude lipstick color in the center, but lately I've just been a gloss person. I'm not always a gloss person, but I've been getting heavy on my glosses lately. So Kristy also launched 2 glosses in this launch, and I could not decide which one to get, so I got both. And I knew they both would look kind of similar. I just knew one was going to have shimmer and one wasn't, but I use one on the bottom, one on the top, and then I blot them together. I keep these in my purse. I have even wore off like the lettering and stuff on the sides just because I wear them so much. Any chance I get to wear a gloss where I don't have to wear my mask, I'm putting it on. So you're going to see a lot of this in the future. Yep, these are the final steps. I set one more time after this. I'm going to do a little wardrobe change off camera, and I will be back on camera in just a minute to show you the final looks. And this is the final look. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit different from my go-to. I kind of like warm, bronzy looks. But yeah, that is it. Make sure you guys like this video, and you will see me in the next one. Bye.